have spent a lot of time learning about our options there with TikTok, and we've explored things like dancing and trying to tie in with some of those funny sounds that we hear. And so we're always trying to take part in those trends and trying to be trendy.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance of Martin County. Beyond just providing insurance, they are dedicated to protecting our local families from difficult financial situations when life happens. We want to thank them for everything they do for our community and for supporting our mission to be a resource for youth workers and the families they serve. To learn more, please visit the team at your local Martin County office or call 606-298-7721.
What if the right opportunity after high school could change the entire future of a young person's life? Well, today's guest makes those connections happen. Not only for the younger generation, but also for those that maybe are looking to go back to school or they're looking for a second opportunity. He is also one of the sharpest dressed men in Eastern Kentucky, and he's got quite the eyewear collection. Do you know today's guest? Let's get into the episode and find out. Welcome to Me and Poverty, a podcast about breaking barriers, building bridges, and changing lives, one story at a time. Today's guest, I like to think of him as really a connector. And honestly, he's probably one of the best storytellers I've ever seen. Professionally, he is the Director of Marketing and Communications at Hazard Community and Technical College. Not only that, he's also a man of faith, and he's a Kentucky Colonel, which I want to hear more about, of course, today. And I'm sure our guests are interested in that too. But without further ado, welcome to the show, my dear friend, Wallace Caleb Bates.
Thank you for having me on today. I'm very excited to talk with you.
Hey, I appreciate it, my friend. And really good to catch up. It's been a while, right?
It has, yes. I guess now almost a year since we finished up our journey with Bright Leadership Kentucky together, and almost a year and a half now since we met through that program. So it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a shameless plug for them. No matter what room in Kentucky I go in, I'm always going to brag on them. So Caleb, for our audience today, go ahead and start us out. What would you say is your relationship? I mean, the name of the podcast is Me and Poverty. What is your relationship to poverty?
So like many folks in Eastern Kentucky, I come from a long line of hardworking Appalachian people. My grandparents fought hard to overcome the grip of intergenerational poverty, and that fight continued through my dad's formative years and into his young adulthood. So he joined the military, and that opened doors for him as a first-generation college student and first-generation college graduate. And so thanks to their collective grit, I have not had to experience poverty directly in my own life. However, living in Appalachian Kentucky throughout the duration of my life, I've been surrounded by poverty. Whether it's growing up, I witnessed the impacts that it had on my classmates, and I see it now in the lives of the community members that we serve and that I serve.
Yeah, no doubt of that. For our audience as well, what in the world does a Director of Marketing and Communications actually do, Caleb?
I'll start by speaking broadly to the work of our department. So our department is the face and the voice for our institution. So we play a significant role in our strategic planning efforts, really focusing on how the public perceives our institution and higher education at large in the region. So we produce content for advertising, for digital purposes, for print purposes, and across other placements. And then when crises arise, whether that's a threat on campus or a weather-related closure, we're responsible for coordinating with a team of leaders from across the college to get the word out both effectively and efficiently. And so across news outlets, that is. And for context as to the effectiveness and efficient operation that we try to run here. It usually takes us, I think we're down to about 3 minutes to get the weather announcements out the door on those snowy mornings. So that just speaks to the urgency that we're moving with. In my role specifically, I'm very fortunate as a community-minded individual to serve in a role that allows me to be present in the community in a lot of different ways. And so we at HCTC really aim to be a convener for the community. I often say we try to put the college in community college. And so you see that in whether we're hosting events on our campus or whether we're attending community events and being out among the folks in the community. That's a major part of the work that I do in marketing and communications. And it takes a lot of thoughtful approaches when it comes to managing marketing and communications. So I like to think that I'm a thinker, and that's something that I spend a lot of my time doing as well, analyzing and considering different things that are happening, whether that's internally or externally. There's a lot of thought that goes into it.
I think there has to be, and it's always great to know. Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes of knowing that you're the face, oftentimes, of an industry. Maybe not your face exactly, but that's a big weight on your shoulders. So that's a pretty big deal. Now, help out our audience today. I know you personally, and grateful to have gotten to know you. But how did you end up in your role? Maybe for someone and a younger generation or somebody looking to get into the field. First of all, how did you land where you are? And then maybe how could someone else that's looking to do it?
Looking back, I, of course, grew up here in HCTC's service region. We serve Breathitt, Knott, Lee, Leslie, Owsley, Perry, and Wolfe counties. I'm a native Breathitt Countian, and so my connection to HCTC goes back generations. But with that being said, I first started out after high school with plans to become an elementary teacher. And I realized after working in the field for about a year that was not for me. I admire our teachers and have deep respect for them. And that experience actually led to an even greater respect for them and appreciation. But so I started out and decided elementary education was not for me, transferred to another institution, Eastern Kentucky University, and began studying communication studies and fell in love with it. I think that my interest in communication specifically dates back to the love that I've always had for writing. And so I've always been very interested in that. And I remember my family always taught me growing up that the best way to make friends was to be friendly. And so I learned from a very young age about the importance of communicating and being friendly and being involved in the community and building relationships. And so that led to the academic interest there. And then around the time that I was first making that transition, an opportunity came up that allowed me to intern in the Division of Communications at the Kentucky Department of Education. So I was able to bridge my interest in communication and education through that experience, and I realized pretty early on that that's what I wanted to spend the rest of my career doing. So worked there for a little while and actually began focusing specifically on career and technical education communication a little while into my experience at KDE. And then I was able to return home to the service region I'm from and began working at HCTC as the coordinator of public relations. My direct predecessor retired after more than 3 decades of service to the institution earlier this year. And so, so I moved up into the director role and have been there now for, I guess, around 5-ish months, maybe. So we're still pretty new into this specific role, but I've been around the institution for almost all my life.
That is way too cool. And to get to serve at an institution that played a big part for you and your community, and me being an Alice Lloyd student and working there, I've had a lot of date nights in the Hazard area, a lot of Applebee's in my life. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Me in Poverty. I just wanted to take a quick second and tell you about our Season 2 sponsor, Appalachia Reach Out, or ARO for short. Founded in 1972, ARO is a ministry in Eastern Kentucky devoting their time and effort to being Christ's love in action. Based in Martin County, but also serving Perry County, Kentucky, and Scioto County, Ohio, ARO supports families by meeting basic needs through their food pantry, their thrift store, while also partnering in addiction recovery, education, and community development through their work and witness teams. Fun fact, we've even had Appalachia Reach Out's Executive Director, Dwayne Mills, on this podcast before. So please go check out that episode last season. I'm going to have a link to ARO's website in the description of this video. Guys, I'm sure they would love your support, whether that be financially or volunteering your time. With that being said, let's get back into the episode. What's probably one of the funniest bloopers that you've seen while trying to film maybe a commercial or a video for the college?
So it's more of a mix-up, actually. On my very first day on the job, I was new to the local context. And so moving from the state lens into the local lens, it took a little bit of adjustment. So one of my first assignments in my previous role as coordinator of public relations, I handled a lot of the day-to-day media interactions. And I still continue to do that, but in a different capacity now. And I was tasked with recording an advertisement for the radio. And so on my very first day on the job, I called the radio station here in Hazard, and I did not realize that at that time the trading post was going on. And so I called the radio station during the trading post, introduced myself in a business manner, and very much did not fit the vibe of the trading post. It was a really good story. I appreciate telling. It gets even better though. So my grandfather at the time, he hadn't yet retired. He was working at an office in Jackson, and he told me later that evening that someone had come into his office and said that they had heard me on the radio. And I don't know that he connected that it was during the trading post, or I don't know if they provided that context, but it certainly made it a little bit better for me knowing that someone had said that they had heard it. So there's something that I've talked a lot about with folks in my circle, being from a small rural community, anytime that we're as people out in the community, folks are connecting us back to HCTC, and they're seeing us there, and they see how our work is so community driven. So it ended up being probably a promotional for HCTC as well, just by calling into the trading post. So it worked out.
Sure, I'm sure. And I love the community-based approach. And I'll be honest, we do that here locally in Martin County as well. And yeah, super grateful for the work that you all do in the Perry County area. But so Caleb, how is HCTC, what specific programs do they have that are maybe opening doors for students?
Absolutely. We have a number of programs that open doors for students, and that's something that we pride ourselves in. So one example is our HCTC Promise Scholarship, and that scholarship provides 1 year of free tuition to any first-time college student. So we typically see students who are recent high school graduates entering our institution who benefit from that, but we also have some adult learners as well. And so with that, we also have our Forge Your Way Forward program. And so if a student has studied at HCTC in the past, maybe a life circumstance required them to leave the institution, they left owing a bill, they can actually come back and we will work with them to waive that debt. There's a process there that includes some advising, and they'll work with one of our student success coaches to ensure that this time around we're able to support them in that meaningful way. And that ties directly in with our Success Zone services. So our Success Zone is really a hub for retention services at HCTC. So these include things like advising, tutoring, veteran services. There are a number of different offerings there that are focused on ensuring that once our students come to HCTC, they're able to stay here and succeed.
As a former financial aid director, I love all of what you just mentioned. And going back to that community-based approach, right? It's not a cookie cutter solution for students. And I love that you're kind of servicing both the quote unquote traditional student, the freshly graduated high school student, but also more of those that are maybe interested in going back to school or finishing a degree. I love what you are doing. How does HCTC serve those students that maybe can't leave home?
When it comes to serving students who might not be able to leave home, the best idea that comes to mind there is that we're located in the communities we serve. And so we have learning locations across our service region. And we do that to ensure that our education is accessible to those across our region so that they don't have to leave home to pursue educational opportunities. In addition to that, a significant portion of our faculty and staff are from this region. So they know firsthand, we know firsthand the barriers that our students face. And I think that just amplifies our commitment to helping students succeed. We also offer a number of online courses and online programs, and completely online programs, I should add. And so students can operate on a remote schedule, can complete those classes asynchronously. I do believe we offer some courses that are synchronous as well, but there are opportunities there for students who cannot physically leave their home.
That'll work well. I like that. For me to throw a curveball at you, you knocked it out of the park. Maybe we've got a parent watching this and they want to better help their students. Their student wants to stay local, but they do want to pursue higher education. Can you maybe help educate the parent in addition to the student about dual credit or how early college works for a student, and any recommendations there, maybe based on your previous experience?
Absolutely. So I was fortunate myself to complete dual credit courses at HCTC as a high school student through the dual credit program. And I always tell parents, prospective dual credit students, that it's an excellent opportunity to get a head start. And it also is helpful from a financial standpoint in that it's not as expensive to take a dual credit course, especially when you compare that to a traditional college course for students who are enrolled here after high school. So I always tell folks it's an excellent opportunity. There are a lot of different options there with dual credit. So we are working with schools across our service region to ensure that our dual credit efforts are responsive to the needs of our region, to the needs of the students in the high schools across our region. So whether a student's interested in pursuing a career in healthcare, we might work with them to ensure they're able to take those prerequisites like anatomy and physiology. Or if a student's interested in education, we have some education course offerings. We have a number of different courses that we can tailor to meet those high school students' needs through that dual credit environment. And then in addition to that, I'll give a plug for our University Center of the Mountains. And so we have a transfer center here at HCTC. It's located physically on our Highway 15 campus in Hazard. We have a number of partners that are located there. They have folks who regularly come into the office and work with our students to set them up on a pathway to transfer. So we see a lot of success there. And for those students who are interested in pursuing a 4-year master's or doctoral level degree here in Eastern Kentucky, doing it close to home, that's an excellent opportunity for them to do so. And there's a clear pathway there for that transfer.
Yeah, and that kind of flips the script of saying, community college is just for a 2-year degree and all of that. You all, again, like I said at the beginning of our show here, I view you as a person as a connector, but also your institution, right? So if you had to go undercover for a day as a student, what class would you take just for fun?
Absolutely. So since starting here at HCTC in my previous role and now in my current role, I've said numerous times that I'm amazed by our computer-aided drafting and design program. And it also includes a component of surveying technology. And so that program is hands-on in 3D printing, surveying land, things of that nature. So I'm certainly interested in that and could have seen myself going into that field in a different life if I hadn't decided to pursue communication, marketing. So I think if I could choose one class to go into and experience as a student for one day, it would definitely be one of those courses.
That is too cool. And I got to say, I agree. I would probably go to that one. Is there a student story, and we don't need names here, but is there a student story that you've heard that have quote unquote made it, or maybe escaped a situation in life or changed a family tree that has really stuck out to you, Caleb?
Well, I'll be honest, Joe, there are too many for me to summarize. Every single day we see that exact scenario that you've laid out, mentioned here at our institution. We see it in our students' experiences. We see it when our students cross the graduation stage and become our alumni. It's something that we are familiar with here at HCTC. And I think that speaks to the power of the work that we're doing, that we have an opportunity to make a difference, not only for our current students, but for the generations in their family that follow. We see it in the learners who return to college after years to pursue a career in nursing, whose children and grandchildren now have access to a steady income as a result of that experience. We see it in the work that we're doing to try and help those who maybe were displaced from the mines after the mines closed in our region, whether that's through our line worker training program or our heavy equipment operation program. We see it just across the board every single day that there are student success stories, and it's a fortunate aspect of my job that I get to be part of telling those stories. And as I said, there's so many that I can't think of one in particular because there are so many.
I love that is your daily life, right? And I had quite a few of those stories, of course, in my time in higher ed as well. It's what drove me. It's why I woke up every day, knowing that we were making a difference and that we could see the difference happening on a daily basis. So I intentionally have these two signs hanging behind me. So one being the over poverty, which you're familiar with, I believe. And I've still got to do a bumper sticker one day. And then over here, me being a man of faith, I think we are called to go after the one. There'll be plenty of students that go straight to college, make it in life, do really well, but I think we're also called to serve those that maybe have struggled. Maybe life did kind of happen to them, and now we're called to go and give them opportunities and access to resources. So it's too cool that you get to do that every day.
And I'll tell you, I think about, as you said that, about going after the one. We leave no stone unturned when it comes to reaching students. And so whether it's a student who reaches out by email or a prospective student who reaches out by email with questions, we try to be responsive to those students and to those prospective students. And the same goes for those who are enrolled at HCTC now, recognizing that each individual person adds value to our institution and brings with them an experience that we're able to use in growing our institution. And we're thankful that we're able to integrate that into our institutions. So we try to be mindful of that very thing.
Yeah, it's too cool. And thank you again for the work that you're doing. In your role, how do you personally view success?
Absolutely. So there's a portion there that comes from the quantitative. So in marketing and communications, we often take a look at statistics. We're looking at metrics, trying to determine whether or not something was effective from that standpoint. From a personal aspect, I can't help but think about the importance of building relationships. And so in my first few days as the director, I worked with the team I have here to try and figure out a way that we could increase our presence across the institution, both among our faculty and staff, our students, and so forth. I think relationship building is such an important element of marketing and communications. So this semester we provided whether that's professional headshot opportunities for our faculty and staff, whether that's learning sessions where we interact directly with them and provide them with opportunities to ask questions, provide input and feedback on the work that we're doing. That is a major portion of how I measure success. And to me, success also comes from serving others. And I think it's not always something that you can measure. A lot of the time it's something that you can feel. And that's a major, from a personal standpoint, that's a major element of it for me.
Yeah, that's huge. And you're talking about relationship building internally for the institution. And but I also think about, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, because I think relationship building and how important that is externally, right? To the news stations, the radio station, all of the things. And I think you're exactly right. Makes a ton of sense. Do you think people still think marketing is maybe just making a few flyers or social media posts? Like, what are some of the misconceptions that maybe you've came across?
Absolutely. So Yes, I totally would say that there are a lot of folks who still think that marketing means just making flyers. It's certainly not the case. So, here at HCTC, we've tried to transform our efforts, moving from a transactional to a transformational approach so that marketing and communications are both viewed as integral and as strategic partners in the work that we're doing here at HCTC. So I like to say that marketing is a verb, it's not a noun. So, there's often a discussion there of, well, let's share this with the marketing department, which in that case it is a noun. But when we view marketing as a verb, we provide an opportunity for folks to take part in it meaningfully. And so, for the institution as a whole to take a part in how we're perceived publicly and how we're communicating with the public and how we're serving the public. So, there's certainly an element of that there that we're trying to change here at HCTC and continually develop at HCTC.
I like that new approach, and I think it's needed, and I think it'll give people a renewed view on marketing. So I like that a lot. So someone wants to go into marketing, and we need to help prepare them, obviously. So if you were tasked to create a college commercial using only TikTok, what would that look like in your opinion?
Absolutely. Well, I think that question, Joe, gets to the heart of a lot of what we do in marketing. So we're always trying to be responsive to the latest trends, and even a lot of time we're trying to be proactive when it comes to those rather than reactive. So we have spent a lot of time learning about our options there with TikTok, and we've explored things like dancing and trying to tie in with some of those funny sounds that we hear. And so there's a lot of different things that could look like. But as I said, I think that gets to the heart. The heart of the question gets to the fact that we're always trying to take part in those trends and trying to be trendy. So.
No, that's good. That's good. I think you have to be in today's time. So, what would you say to a high school student that says college is not for them?
I hear that quite a bit from students, that they don't think college is for them. So my response to that would be, here at HCTC, we offer a number of short-term credentials here at HCTC that allow students to get in, get out, and get employed. We have a number of technical programs here with hands-on training, and we also are a bridge as an institution. So if a student is interested in maybe studying in a particular field, but they're not sure about it, they want to test the waters a little bit, they can do that at HCTC. And then if they decide they want to continue their education elsewhere, we'll support them with transfer services to ensure they're able to do that. So it's a neat place to try out different options career-wise, academically. There's a real opportunity there. And so that's my answer, that it's something to give a try.
Yeah, and I'm someone that worked in the more, traditional 4-year institution, and I always encourage students when I was out recruiting in high schools that would answer me with that response. I would say, well, have you considered a short-term certification program? Or maybe you're unsure of what you want to do, but education opens doors. I mean, it's hard to deny that. And so I always recommended that they would check out the community colleges, and I'm a huge fan of that. And oftentimes it's a very affordable way to kind of what you said, kind of get your toes in the water, maybe figure out what you do want to do in life, what you're called to do. So that's a great answer, buddy.
And I'll tell you too, in relation to that, it takes all of us working together to help meet students' needs and help them find their path to a meaningful career. And so it takes our partnership with local high schools. It takes our partnership with local and regional 4-year institutions. It's a community-wide, region-wide, statewide, even nationwide effort.
For someone interested in making a career out of storytelling, what advice would you have for them?
I think that when it comes to making a career out of storytelling, one of the biggest pieces of that is to figure out what story it is that you like to tell. And so for me, of course, that ended up being in education and in this setting where I'm able to tell stories that relate to students' experiences and play a role in explaining how HCTC as part of community and workforce development efforts. And those things matter a lot to me as someone from Appalachia who has always had an interest in being of service to the community. So, in sum, the biggest advice that I could give there would be to figure out what story it is you want to tell. I'm also a major proponent of lifelong learning, and I believe wholeheartedly there are so many opportunities to continually learn and to grow and develop as writers, as leaders. And so when it comes to storytelling, that's a major portion of it. When I first started in this field as an intern, was not familiar at all with Associated Press style. And so my first few pieces of work were pretty much torn to shreds. And so I had to accept that feedback and learn from it. And I'm grateful for that experience looking back. What may have felt like a setback a couple of years ago, now I really see it was setting the stage for something wonderful, and that is the ability to take part in almost a journalism style of writing. And so I'm grateful for that. And I say that because I think it's important that anyone who is maybe new to storytelling or approaching this type of career for the first time or in the early stages of it, just to be mindful that there are so many opportunities to learn, and that it really makes a difference if you're willing to accept that criticism or that feedback, that constructive criticism, I should say, and move forward with it and allow that to guide your growth and your learning.
Yeah, it's such a key component to growth that people often they overlook and maybe don't want to hear because it's a little uncomfortable, right? But we've got to have that feedback, that structured criticism. So what keeps you going on the days that maybe you feel like you've got a great message, it's just not getting through the way you wanted it to, maybe to families or students? What keeps you going on the day-to-day?
So on those days when it feels like a message isn't landing, I think that the biggest thing that keeps me going in this field is my belief in the power of education, and my belief that communication, marketing, and education, the intersection of those things, is my calling. And so I am reminded there in thinking about that, really the difference that we're making in marketing and communications. It allows me to keep going when times get hard. And then also in thinking about that, I can picture numerous prospective students who have reached out to me personally, recognizing my role at the institution, who have questions, wanting to learn more, looking for certain information that I've been able to connect with folks in admissions or in student services. And to see them smiling on campus with a schedule in their hand, excited about learning, excited about finding a pathway to a meaningful career, that's fuel. And it means a lot to be able to experience those things. So the good certainly outweighs the bad. And again, it's believing in the power of education and never letting that waver.
Some of my happiest moments in my career in higher education was when students would just simply stop by on their way to class, or when they would be a little confused and my window faced sort of the high traffic area on campus, and I'd often see students stop directly at my window, maybe confused of where their class was, or just to have conversations about what their day was going to look like, and I'd overhear fears, doubts, all of the things. Being able to just give them a word of encouragement, and it was a nice little lovely reminder of why I did what I was doing. I can appreciate your response.
Right. Well, and I'll walk into the office building where I'm located at. My office is located at, and we'll have students who are preparing for a nursing exam, and they're sitting there in the lobby. They're waiting to go in, and so being able just to look them in the eye and say, "I believe in you, and I believe that you're going to do great on this test." Especially as you know, nursing and some of the other programs that we offer here at HCTC, they're not easy to get through, and so they require a lot of hard work, tenacity, and so to be able to provide that meaningful encouragement, it really does. It means a lot to me, and I know it meant a lot to you as well.
When you think about our people in Appalachia and Eastern Kentucky, us being both natives, when you think about them and their experiences that they're having at your institution and other community colleges, what gives you the most hope for the future of Appalachia?
When it comes to hope here in Appalachia, in southeastern Kentucky, and across the Appalachian Kentucky region, I am so immensely impressed by the perseverance and the willingness to persevere that our people have demonstrated over the course of decades and even longer than that. And I'm amazed. I have great hope because our people have an ability to care for one another and really carry one another's burdens when times get hard. We see that when a natural disaster strikes. We see that when someone loses a loved one or is going through a hard time financially. Others are willing to step up and try and help just ease some of that burden. And so I think that across Appalachian Kentucky in recent years, we've seen a movement to recognize that our future as a region is what we make it. And so, in a lot of communities that we visited through Bright Leadership Kentucky, I'll mention that again, we were able to see how folks in Appalachian Kentucky are no longer waiting for someone else to find a solution. Instead, they are doing, and they are finding that solution, implementing it in their communities, and we're seeing a lot of amazing growth because of that. So the answer there is that our people persevere, they care for one another, and they're willing to find solutions, even when it might be difficult to figure that out.
That was too cool. That was too cool. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for the work that you're doing in Appalachia, in eastern, southeastern Kentucky. And thank you for the doors that you're opening for our people. And maybe that's directly or indirectly, but your position as Director of Marketing and Communications, it's so crucial to an institution. Thank you, my friend. Now, for anyone watching this, if you've enjoyed today's episode, maybe you're going to benefit from it, please like, comment on the video, and subscribe to Me in Poverty. And remember, keep sharing stories. See you in the next episode.